This is Dr. Damon Miller, your Organic MD.
And this is Carlyle Coash. Welcome to OrganicMD.com and our podcast, videocast. As always, we're trying to find interesting information about nutrition, about wellness. This week, we're actually just saw an amazing article that just came out in...
Well, this was it was in the April 16th, 2014 edition of the New England Medical Journal. And we'll be doing this occasionally. You know, there will be something published that's just really kind of striking. And this, like so many things that are striking, this didn't get very much play at all in the press. It didn't get picked up by a lot. And part of it because it's a topic that's rather controversial. It's not a new controversy. And the controversy is over the effectiveness at mammography. Is mammography effective really at reducing the death rate from cancer, breast cancer? And this article, this is reporting from a study that was commissioned by the Swiss Medical Board in Switzerland, the Swiss Medical Board. And the three of the people who had been on this board, that was all doctors, nurses, and I think a lawyer and an ethicist and a health economist, surgeons. And what they set out to do is they wanted to look at the data on the effectiveness of mammography.
And maybe just, I would sure that the women listening know all about what a mammogram is like, but for those who might not be familiar with that procedure, I mean, can you give just a basic description? The guys in the room probably haven't had that experience.
It's basically, you know, the whole notion. This gets into a whole nother topic. We may have to do a mammogram. I mean, do a talk about this. But you know, medicine operates. Basically waiting for you to, the way medicine operates, it waits for you to get a disease and then depends upon early diagnosis as a way to decrease the morbidity and mortality. Okay. So it's not really preventative, but even the language gets confused. Mammography is often referred to as preventative medicine. Waiting for you to get a cancer and then finding it when it's still really small and patting yourself on the back like you did a favor for the woman you found it in, that's not prevention. That's early detection. But the question has been, does the kind of early detection that mammography allows really change anything in terms of the overall outcome that women have? And this study, like I say, this is not a new controversy. Dr. Christine Northrup, who's another person who's out there talking about controversies in medicine, if you look her up, she's been talking about this for years, about how mammography is a much overrated study, that it doesn't really do women very much good. And what they found is they looked at all of the data that has been used to basically support the wide use of mammography. They found that the first thing they found was that most of the data is based upon very old research. And the ways that breast cancer is now treated are more effective. And, you know, but for 10 to 15 years, you know, we're still relying on this same data. And they're wondering, you know, if you were to look at the effectiveness of mammography now with current data, would it be the same? But what they were struck by, number one, was a non-obvious fact that the benefits of mammography screening are assumed to outweigh the harms, but in truth, that's not the case. That they found that there were a large number of women who undergo follow-up procedures, biopsies, and out of 1,000 women, there would probably be about 8 or 10 who would actually receive a full-bore treatment for breast cancer who didn't really have something that needed that. The other thing they found, they looked...
8 or 10 out of 100?
Out of 1,000.
Oh, out of 1,000.
So 8 or 10 women out of 1,000, because of kind of this aggressive screening, would end up being treated for something that didn't need treatment. Okay. And I guess to make sense out of this, you have to understand, too, another piece of data that they looked at, which was the discrepancy between the perception of the benefits of mammography. And they were looking at it for women who are being treated, but this applies to doctors as well. Doctors have an overrated sense of the effectiveness. But the discrepancy between the perception of the benefit of mammography and the real benefit. And so they did some studies where they polled women. They did questionnaires and things, and they asked women, out of 1,000 women, how many women do you think are alive today because of screening, widespread use of mammographic screening? And they said that out of 1,000 women thought that about 80 women would die from breast cancer if they were screened, and twice that many, 160 women, would die of breast cancer without mammography.
If they weren't screened.
The truth is that with screening, 4 women die from breast cancer.
Out of every 1,000.
Out of every 1,000. Without screening, add 1 to that, 5 women dying. So basically, you have to
almost
treat...
the same.
Statistically, it's virtually the same. But you have to study 1,000 women over and over again to maybe help 1. So you've helped 1, but there are 8 to 10 that have been treated who didn't need treatment, let alone all of the fear, anxiety, cost, worry, complications from many biopsies and exploratory surgeries and things like that. And it was interesting, the response. So this, like I say, this study was New England Journal of Medicine, April 16th, 2014. The Swiss Medical Board's report was published on February 2nd, 2014, and that's at www.medical-board.ch. We'll put that up on the screen for you to see, hopefully. And it created a lot of uproar. And what was interesting is that the reason that doctors wish this study had never been published, there were 2 main reasons. One is that they said, well, this goes against what we have thought about mammography for so long. And they said, well, but that's why we're here, because we looked carefully at the data, and the data says something different than what you're telling these women. The other thing is that it was going to upset women. Women expected something different out of mammography, and if they knew what the real data was, they'd be very upset. And their argument to that was, well, they need to know. And they're kind of the final paragraph, I think it's worth reading. This is to quote the final paragraph in the article here, and this is a quote. It is easy to promote mammography screening if the majority of women believe that it prevents or reduces the risk of getting breast cancer and saves many lives through early detection of aggressive tumors. We would be in favor of mammography screening if these beliefs were valid. Unfortunately, they are not, and we believe that women need to be told so. From an ethical perspective, a public health program that does not clearly produce more benefits than harms is hard to justify. Providing clear, unbiased information, promoting appropriate care, and preventing overdiagnosis and treatment would be a better choice. So I just present this as an explanation of what's in the news these days, but it's interesting. And it's, breast cancer is kind of going the same way that prostate cancer has gone, from looking at it as something that needs to be aggressively screened for and treated to an understanding that, you're not really getting that much bang for your buck if you're doing mammography on all these women, saving 1 life out of 1,000. I'm not saying it's not worth saving lives, but the benefits, they're not without tremendous risks and tremendous downside. So it's just one more thing in medicine that isn't as black and white as we thought it was. And I'm speaking, my board certification is a radiologist. I've been involved in a lot of mammograms.
Yeah, well, breast cancer is something that occurs in my family, and that's what when my mother got cancer, that's where it first appeared. So, I'm just reading that, it was very, powerful to kind of go, wow, okay, this is. Our hope, I think, is always to be looking at these things, encouraging curiosity, encouraging us to just be open to change and to a different way of looking at things. And it's not to say that these tried and true methods that maybe have been going for a long time, many of those do have a reason for doing it that way. And at the same time, we also learn and adapt and grow. This is why we've existed as long, is that we adapt and we grow and we're curious. And so,
well, we have other videos on our YouTube channel about what we call the cancer cascade, an attempt to understand how a cancer gets started and what you can do. So cancer, how it works and how you win. I'm not saying that we have the answer for cancer. Certainly breast cancer, it was the immediate cause of your mother's death that kills a lot of women. The point of this study is not that not to say that breast cancer isn't a terrible thing. It's to say that mammography hasn't really done much to change the outcome. The same number of women are dying from breast cancer pretty much as would have died if no mammography was ever done. And that's really the point, is that we need to do things differently. So this is Your Organic MD. We thank you. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more. Get notified when we do more podcasts like this.
Thank you for spending a little time with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.